Call to order the South Washington County Telecommunications Commission Thursday, July 25th, 2024, 7 o'clock meeting. We are in the City of Cottage Grove Council Chambers. This interim executive director, can we get a roll call?
Commissioner Thede.
Here.
Commissioner Polta.
Here.
Commissioner Ingeman.
Here.
Commissioner Wilczek.
Here.
Commissioner Bloom.
Here.
Commissioner Date.
Here.
Commissioner James.
Here.
Commissioner Downs.
Here.
Commissioner Olson.
Present.
Also present is legal counsel Michael Bradley, lead producer Bob McSherry, and myself, Ann Schweiskuth.
Great, we have a quorum.
We do.
Moving on to public comment. And we'll move on from public comment. Next up, looking for approval of the agenda. Any discussion?
I'll move to approve the agenda.
Second.
Those in favor?
Aye.
Consent agenda. Any discussion?
I'll move the consent agenda.
Second.
Those in favor?
Aye.
Move on to reports. Ann?
We just met 2 weeks ago, so I don't have much to update you on, except we did get the architectural and engineering agreement, the contract from Wold, and that got sent over to Mr. Bradley, and he's working on that. So we're not to the exciting part of that yet, but it's coming. And that is pretty much what I have for you, if you have any questions.
Excellent. Legal report, Mr. Bradley.
Good evening, Mr. Chair and members. My legal reports are in your packet. And just one thing that's not in there that just came out, at least to my attention today, is that there is a new closed captioning docket that's been opened at the FCC. And the proposed rule is to exempt local governments that are operating PEG stations from certain closed captioning reporting requirements. And so we'll be probably putting together a group to just put in comments basically saying that we support that. That's my report.
Great, thank you. Unfinished business. Organizational, structural, am I in the right meeting?
Yep.
Analysis. Check your assistant, doesn't look the same as the last one. We just met in a closed meeting regarding the organizational structure analysis, and I believe we've come to some determination. Patrick, do you want to?
Well, as far as the chart go, I know we took a look at the bus, we took a look at the sort of where we are now and sort of the different variations we went forward to. I think that the executive committee and the other members there talked about, we've all got some concerns about the use of titles, the application of titles, and who would get them, and then also secondary to that, the division of duties and how do those two intermix or how do they relate to each other. And I think one of the things we talked about is that not having the permanent executive director position filled puts us at somewhat of a handicap or puts us at an informational deficit, right? Which is we're not there every day to watch, observe, and see the workload and the division. So I think the executive committee and the members there talked about establishing that yes, we will have an executive director. We want that position. That's what we think is appropriate for this organization. But that as far as determining the rest of the chart in terms of what titled positions we have and what duties they would have, that we're going to want to appoint the executive director first and then work with that executive director to really decide what positions do we want named, what levels would they be at, and sort of what's the reporting hierarchy. So unless I'm mistaken or if somebody wants to add something, I think
That was exactly it.
okay, I think that was kind of the consensus we came to, which is we got to the first block, and before we can kind of get to the second blocks and go down the tree, we want to have that executive director to give input. We want somebody who's got the hands-on, day-to-day knowledge that can, again, fill those informational gaps that we just have.
Correct. Yep. That's correct. And then from the executive committee meeting, we came up with a few motions that we want to push towards the full commission for vote. And Commissioner Downs, you want to read?
Yes. So, as far as filling the position that we desperately need to sort of permanently fill and kind of get moving. The executive committee talked, and again, there were other members present, and I think there was a consensus that we've got 3 basic recommendations. Recommendation number 1 is that after a lot of good discussion and a lot of thinking, the executive committee is not recommending to the full commission that we have an open candidate search for the position of executive director. There were conversations concerning timeliness, or the time it would take to conduct an open search, the cost, the likelihood or the possibility that we could find a candidate that would meet the candidate we think that we already have in place. So sort of a cost benefit, what's the cost of holding an open candidate search versus looking at what we have now available to us, which we think is a good fit and something that we're looking for. So again, so the first recommendation from the executive committee to the full commission is that we're not recommending a full open candidate search. So that's the first recommendation. And I don't know if we want to just parcel them out one at a time. Maybe let's talk about that, and maybe we can deal with that recommendation first, and then we can move on to the next ones.
I feel like 1 and 2 kind of go together, though, don't they?
Yes, they do, but but maybe this is a good time, like, is there anybody that wasn't at the executive commission meeting that wants to talk about things, hey, why are we not having an open candidate search? So we can open it up maybe for that discussion if there's anybody who wasn't there, who didn't have a voice or who didn't have an option or an opportunity to say something. And I'm seeing basically all the same, 8 or 9 faces.
We're all still here.
Okay. So if there's no discussion or if there's no,
Yes,
Do
can I
we
say one?
need a motion? Okay.
You're not doing anything.
right, so we're just making a non-recommendation. Well, no, but that's an important first step, right?
Yes,
Yeah,
it's
I
good
just want to add
information.
one thing to step 1, because you have done a phenomenal job summarizing everything so far. One addition to the cost-benefit analysis is also that recommendation 2, our current, maybe I'm getting a little ahead of things, has done an exceptional job and has proved themselves over the last 6 months. So it's not just like,
Oh, no, I'm-
cost-benefit analysis. I just want to clarify.
Well, you're right, the cost of looking for something that you already have.
Right.
Right, so, no, and that leads again into our second sort of discussion point, recommendation from the executive committee, which is, we, as the executive committee, thought that it would be appropriate and wise to direct our energies in terms of filling the executive director position with Ms. Schweitz-Guth. And again, Ms. Date said at the meeting, a couple of different occasions, which is, if we were at the beginning of this process, we weren't quite sure, maybe we'd want to have some lead-in time or we'd want to look around, but, we've had this 6 or 7 month track record with Ms. Schweitz-Guth, either as the interim or as the but now as just the temporary, executive director, where, we don't need any more real lead-in time. We've seen what's happened. We've observed how things have been going, and to my knowledge, I've not heard any real complaints or concerns from anybody on the commission or anybody in the executive committee. So, our second recommendation was, if we're not going to do an open candidate search, that we would want to recommend to the full commission that we empower Mr. Bloom to formally begin discussions and negotiations to permanently fill the position with you, Ms. Schweitz-Guth. So that was our executive committee sort of second thought, or our second sort of recommendation to the full commission. And I don't know if that particular recommendation requires a motion. So
Yes.
I would move, so again, I would move that the committee or the commission formally approve that Mr. Bloom engage in direct negotiations with Ms. Schweitz-Guth to officially accept and fulfill the position of executive director for this commission and this body.
I'll second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? That recommendation passes.
Okay.
And typically, Chair, we negotiate an employment agreement with the executive director. So that's what our expectation would be.
And part of our third recommendation that we came up with, and we kind of, I was thinking, somebody mentioned, it would have been, we kind of wanted to steal you for this one. So if this recommendation needs to be re-wordsmithed or it needs to be refigured, please feel free to hop in and work your magic. So, again, as a part of the recommendation that Mr. Bloom enter into negotiations with Ms. Schweisguth to fill the position, that at the next executive committee meeting, we would approve the final job description and salary offer, and that after that meeting, the negotiations would officially begin. And then it would be, and the hope would be that between that, the next executive committee meeting and the next full commission meeting, that there would be an offer and an acceptance of the job offer, and that the full commission then would have the option to approve it at the next meeting after the executive committee meeting, where we would set the final job description and make a determination on what's the salary offer. So we'd have the executive committee where, so this is the job offer, this is what we're gonna offer. Then between that meeting and the full commission meeting, then they would negotiate and hopefully come to a resolution one way or the other between then. And if there was an offer and acceptance at the full commission meeting, we could present that for a full commission to vote and approval.
So you are moving to give authority to the executive committee to approve a package of benefits for the executive director position and to
finalize the job
negotiate-
description.
Yes, yeah,
Yeah, so finalize the job description and approve a benefits and pay package, yeah.
okay.
I'll make that motion to whatever he
Well,
said.
let's misstate what.
Oh, just clarifying, Chair Bloom was going to
Oh, did,
update the job description based on the recommendation from the Busky group. There were a few small tweaks. He was going to review that, update it, and that is what the executive committee was going to review and approve. So I don't know if that nuance matters, that we're actually authorizing the chair to prepare it and then the executive committee to approve it, or
That's fine,
Okay,
yeah, that's fine,
so,
And am I also doing the benefits package?
yes.
yes.
yeah.
Okay.
So we would move,
You're putting it all together?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
So
expect
we-
an email or two.
so we would move to, so the executive committee is recommending to the full commission that we vote to authorize Chair Bloom to create the
Draft job description.
draft job description and to set the
Benefits
compensation and benefits package for the executive committee approval.
Was he going to work with the assistant director too a little bit?
Well, he's gonna
Not
work with the.
anymore,
He's
because
gonna work
now
with the
the
whole.
executive committee is going to review it.
Oh, okay.
Right, so he's gonna,
now
yeah,
he
so the
can
whole
just-
committee will be,
Okay.
So he
the
can work
recommendation.
directly with Mr. Bradley to do that.
Right, so the recommendation is that the full executive committee would be the sounding board and sort of the approval mechanism for Mr. Bloom's final sort of job description and pay package and benefits package.
So we would do another special executive committee meeting before the next full committee meeting because we need to do it without staff in the room. So we thought we would meet at 5. If the next meeting was set for 5:30 with the rebranding and workshop?
I believe the executive committee meeting does it start at 5 or 5:30?
You had it listed as 5:30.
Yeah.
I thought that was maybe negotiated because Mango Day could show up at 5:30, but
We'll work it out.
okay,
Yeah.
all right.
Do we have to add that special meeting as a recommendation or approve the special meeting?
Well, you have
If
to,
you're ready to, you could, but you don't have to.
I think we have to identify it as a closed meeting at 5, and then the regular executive committee meeting.
When we notice it,
Starting at
yes.
5:30,
Yeah, when
right?
you
Yeah,
notice
when
it.
we notice it.
Right.
Yeah.
But it's not a closed meeting, it's just not staff.
It's just not staff there, right?
Yeah.
And we just wanted half an hour
Yeah,
for
that's
that.
what we did
Can-
tonight.
Yeah.
It was still technically open.
Okay.
So I'm just looking at the calendar, and I believe it is scheduled for 5 o'clock. It's just that Mango Day is scheduled to come at 5:30. So can we just have it as part of the agenda, a closed session, just like we have tonight as part of our agenda?
Closed or no
non-staff.
staff? or
Just
not-
no staff,
Just no staff.
Just no
is what we're
staff.
saying, right?
Yeah, we can
because it's not closed.
but well, perhaps it should be because we're talking about salary
Personnel.
negotiations.
That's true.
And we would need
What's the
Bradley
legality
there.
on that?
Yeah, we don't have to decide all that right now.
Okay.
Okay, so,
But we have the format for the meeting anyway. We know the timing and everything.
so we have the executive committee recommendation about authorizing Chair Bloom to engage in negotiations and to finalize the job description and payment and benefits package for presentation to the executive committee for its approval at its next meeting. So I'm going to move that that the commission vote on that.
I already did a motion, but that's all right.
Okay.
But your original motion, I think, is good, just clarifying that in that motion, we're not actually authorizing him yet to engage in negotiation. He'll do that afterwards.
Right.
He's just, and I think that's what the original one said, so I
Yep.
think we're good. So, you want to second it?
I'll second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
So just to, just to clarify what we're doing here. Really, what we're doing here is Brian's going to have some time before the next executive committee to put together what we're going to offer, what we, the commission, are going to offer, and as part of the executive director package. And then the commission will look at that either in a open session that we ask people to excuse themselves at, or a closed session at the executive committee level. And then that will be followed presumably by negotiations with a full contract at the next full commission meeting.
Correct.
Correct.
And the next executive committee meeting is
The 22nd.
August 22nd.
August 22nd, and the full commission meeting would be September
Right.
20-something.
Right.
Okay. Good.
Good. I think we're done with that one.
Yay, good job.
Nice job.
Good job, Patrick.
Okay, moving on to item B, unfinished business, rebranding. Bob?
Thank you, Commissioner Bloom and members of the commission. Like I said, I sent out an email today about our rebranding meeting that we had at the executive committee. And after the executive committee, we realized that we obviously need additional time to move forward on the rebranding because nothing was rising to the top, and even our poll proved that. So it was a dead heat. So we talked to Mango Day last week, and we proposed what they called a refresh. And so the plan is what we want to do is basically get everybody in the room and really have a brainstorming session and talk about new names, old names, whatever we want to try to get a consensus of some sort and come up with a new name for SWCTC. I think the date we proposed is the executive committee meeting date of August 22nd from 5:30 to 8:30. Might not take 3 hours, it might take less. So we were budgeting 3 hours, so it's less. That's basically what we're doing. So that's where we're gonna move forward there. And the goal of the workshop is not to just pick, this is the name. The goal is basically to get at least 3 good names that people can live with. And then Mango Day can take those names, vet them, and make sure that, nobody's just taken them, all that kind of good stuff that they do. So that would be, and then we would rank the names 1, 2, 3. Like, this is our preference, this is our second, this is our third. So if this one's taken, we can go with the next ones. But that would be the goal, to at least come up with 3 good names that everybody's happy with. So, and then, so we talked about getting a facilitator to help with the brainstorming session. And so that would be just so we can break up into groups and just kind of lead things so it's not everybody just going around and saying this, that, and the other, and it's just chaos. So that's one of our goals is to kind of really, get this organized and really have a good, solid brainstorming session so we can get a good result. So, so then, obviously with the contract, when talking to Mango Day, this where we're slowing down now, so that it's going to extend the contract. Originally, the contract was going to be through October. This will extend it into November. So as a result, they obviously came up with an updated contract, and it would be adding about 10 grand to the original contract. So as we go forward with that, so yeah. So I guess my question now would be: you got any questions or anything like that? We got to approve the plan, and this is kind of the idea. What we're hoping for is that we can all work together and come up with something good.
The $2,500 is an addition to the $10,200?
The $2,500 would be for the facilitator. That would be, that part would just be for the facilitator. And we met with them yesterday, I think, but talk about that, and that's where their price came from, as far as that. So, yeah, the $10,000 is just Mango Day.
Did we have a total budget for this project? I don't recall.
The budget originally was $60,000 with Mango Day. And that was our budget. So yes, we would bump up the budget on that because of slowing down the timeline and extending the contract.
So what if we don't slow it down, and what if we don't do this? I mean, I'm asking a devil's advocate question. I mean, what happens? I mean, do we just get stuck? I mean, do we get handed some, like, here's your options as they stand, and we have to?
I don't know. What happens would be we would have to somehow come up with the four names. We can either live with the four names we have and choose one, or we can come out with something and direct them that way. On that sense, I'm not sure what happens next, but I still believe in Mango Day, and I still think they can help us get to that point and still get us to where we need to be.
Right. So my observation from being at that meeting and listening to everybody, I wasn't at the last full commission meeting where they had the presentation. I was unable to attend, but having sat at the executive committee meeting, my takeaway from that was, and please, I'm asking anybody to jump in or correct me or challenge me on this, but my perception was that some of the dynamic was, are we picking a name that may satisfy us as commissioners or people sitting here, versus are we picking a name or are we picking a branding that might be appealing to our target audience, our citizens, the people we're trying to reach, right? And my perception from that meeting was that seemed to be the tension, and I think maybe that's where you're saying, we've got a whole bunch of options that nobody seemed to like, and none of them seemed to rise, because I think I saw that there's we're not getting to the same place, because I don't know that we all have the same goals. We don't have all the same thinking on this, which is, what is the function of selecting the name and doing the rebranding, and what is the thing we're driving towards, right? And if anybody wants to chime in, I mean, so I understand the facilitator, I understand redoing this, but if until we address sort of like this, I think this underlying issue, or sort of this fundamental disconnect, I'm worried that we'll have 3 hours of what we just did at but at that executive committee meeting, which is, there's this, we're aiming for different spots. So
Yep.
we kind of have to, I want us to make sure we're aiming at the right spot, at the right thing. It doesn't mean we have to all have the same, how we get there, or
Yep.
what we all, but we gotta be aimed in the same direction. Because if we're not, it's gonna be 3 hours of spending money, and then we'll be back at another one of these, and you'll be giving a similar speech.
Yes, I agree with you 100%. So our goal from day one was to market to the community. Our goal was to get the community to know who we are and us to know the community. So yes, if you want to know who to satisfy, we got to satisfy the community, and we got to sell it to the community. And that's so whatever name we choose, no matter what it is, we have to learn to market it, and we have to learn to sell it to the community. And that you can do that with names that you can play with, and you can do that with a lot of different marketing techniques, social media, all that kind of stuff. But you have to let the community get to know us and us to know them. And that's where I think we need to push forward towards that goal. Did I answer your question? I hope.
No, exactly. Like I said, who's the audience? Who's the consumer?
Yes.
Right? I mean, I may not like I may not like a label or a name on a particular product, or if I see a commercial, maybe it's not aimed at me, but that doesn't mean that it's not getting to the place that that product or that commercial is trying to get to.
Yeah.
Right? So that's my concern. I may or may not have a like or dislike any number of the options, but my personal like or dislike isn't necessarily the thing that should be driving where we're going.
Yeah. And that's why I think we need to look at those marketing strategies of whatever name we choose and how we can push it to the community.
I think too, Commissioner Downs, you make a good point, and figuring out what that goal is can be part of that facilitated workshop at the very beginning. To be like, what are we trying to find? And get everybody on the same page, and then start talking about names, and does that fulfill that goal?
Yeah, like I said, I mean, if we're not addressing sort of, but it's my perception. Anyone's free to challenge or say something different, but my perception was we had different ideas of what we're trying to accomplish and who's the audience, yeah. So I mean, if we're not figuring that out, I don't know what else we're gonna accomplish.
I feel like hindsight is always 20/20, and some things become a lot more obvious in retrospect. And the thing to me that seems really obvious is why we didn't have this meeting at the very beginning of this entire process. And frankly, I would have expected Mango Day to have facilitated that a bit more. I don't know, maybe we led them in the wrong direction at the first meeting, but the second meeting did feel pretty off. Like the fact that none of those really resonated with any of us after the first meeting. To be honest, I'm a little disappointed that they're coming back with an additional charge when I don't feel like they got it right. I understand that we can't just keep churning our wheels and changing our mind, but I don't think that's what this was. I also think $2,500 is a lot to facilitate a 3-hour meeting. I know we want to do it right, and we do need a facilitator, but I don't know if maybe we shop around a little bit or see if one of the cities can help us with that. And maybe, I think you had said maybe inviting a few more people besides just commission members to that from the city.
Yes, we're going
So I
to
think
invite
that-
city stakeholders as well. So communications teams from both our major cities, yes.
Yeah. And finally, I guess the last thing is this last meeting, it did seem like they didn't seem to know our cities very well. Like, it feels like they didn't do their research on our community as much as I would have expected. Like,
Right.
just one off comment of like, oh, I think one of your city's colors might be green. It's like, I feel like those are things that I would have expected them to know. I certainly would hope for all of the rest of our meetings that they all show up in person if they're local, because I think that was part of why we selected them, and I just think that we have better interaction and conversation that way.
I do prefer in person as well, so.
I had kind of the same feeling with it, especially spending the extra $10,000 on it. I didn't feel the names that were chosen were all names that you could just get off of Google. I mean, they're just media companies out there, and to me, it was just you coined a name to those names on there. So I had a hard time with any of them, because every single one of them that were presented to us, I could readily Google and readily find somewhere else. And none of them pulled in the community, really. Common Ground was probably the closest one, bunch, but none of them really focused, I think, on that. So I have a really hard time with the extra $10,000 to keep extending it when I really don't feel that they did their portion to begin with. Especially the facilitation portion. That's just my personal opinion on the whole thing, so, but,
I'll just chime in, I agree.
yeah. So I just, so.
Yeah, it looks like they want another $10,000 just because the timeline got extended. I don't see
Yes.
the additional work, I just see, well, it's taking longer, we want $10,000 more dollars. For what?
Well, that's the devil's advocate position, right? Which is, say, we just don't do this, and we hold our noses and look at what we have. No, right, it's up there to talk about.
Question, yep.
Or is there, is there some miniature brain trust on this, commission that says, oh, here's a name? I mean, I don't know.
Not with this break.
I mean, I guess the question being is there sort of like a drop dead date by like, this has to be planned, scheduled, and whatever by this date, or is this already in the work? I mean, where are we like in that sequence of events?
As far as the drop dead date, as far as the name?
Like
or the-
whether or not we're gonna have another workshop and a facilitator, right? Like, are the wheels spinning, or is it like they have to start spinning by a particular day?
I don't think we've gotten that far, but yeah, I would say there's not a drop dead date at this time.
Okay, so we're not committed to any particular activity other than just following what's currently in the contract, right?
Yes.
The timelines, so we haven't deviated yet at such where we need to ask for more time, or we need an extension, or we need to pay more money. We can just go with the status quo if that's, we'll just go with where we're at in the contract now if we want, right? I
What's
mean,
the contract say for timeline? And
At the end?
what, is there a timeline that they,
Yeah, they had a timeline. Originally, it was through October, and now it's going to be extended into December because we've slowed it down. And there is a termination fee as well.
well, I mean, yeah, I'm not suggesting terminate, I'm just saying, well, okay, what if we just,
We got till October.
what if we just,
Well, you got to take time you got to get the name, and
Yeah.
the timeline is for everything.
right,
So that's like you're done with the logo and all the marketing plan and all that kind of stuff. That's December. So you still have to book the time for all that stuff as well. In addition to it's not just we pick the name in November and then we rush to the end. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So,
Well, and that's why I'm asking about the timeline, which is, and again, I don't have it in front of me, and I apologize, I
Yeah.
I just don't have that in my head right now.
yeah, so I'd have to look back at the timeline, and I don't know, and then discuss, what is a possible, as you said, a drop dead date.
Right.
For it. But the idea was that, original timeline was that we would have a name in August, and then the logo would come out in September, and then the marketing plan and all that kind of stuff. So that was kind of the original
Chair.
push.
And there's no reason why we can't meet that timeline, theoretically, right?
What?
There's no reason why we couldn't still meet that timeline.
Yeah, they could meet that timeline. They can accelerate their effort. And this is what I struggle with a little bit, because I work in a consulting field where we do contracts, and it's market research. It's not branding, but very closely related. And clients extend timelines all of the time, almost every single project. There's always rework, and you do it till you get it right. And unless it's egregious, you don't come back and nickel and dime. And that's what it feels like. Especially because they didn't hit the mark on the last meeting. So that's my vent. But, I think you have a good point. I mean, yes, one, they could accelerate their timeline. If we have our meeting in August and we come up with dates, they're just going to have to work a little harder to get it done within the timeline. We should talk about sunk cost. So, my hesitation is we spend another $10,000 and they still don't get it right again. So that's a big concern. And honestly, this meeting should have taken place at the very beginning. They did not move forward, they moved forward with names before they kind of had this brainstorming session with us. So I feel like they also should take some responsibility.
We got a little responsibility in there, because at that last meeting we had, and they were showing their names.
Yeah.
I was probably the only one that said I didn't like any of them. Everybody else kind of sat there and didn't say anything. I'd like to know, what comments did you get back? Personally, I didn't like any of them. To me, a name, and I wrote back to you, a name should signify who you are and what you do. It don't have to be fancy, it don't have to be, eye-catchy. It's like I wrote back to him. I don't care, drive down the street, every business you see, it'll say what it is behind it. Whether it's a pizza place, a lumberyard, a car replace, just throw out Limelight. What the hell is Limelight? I mean, if you're Target or Menards or something like that, fine. But, I was just driving through Newborn, Napa, everybody knows it, but it still says auto parts. You go to Rocco's, it still says pizza. Every business you see, unless they're huge, tells you what they do.
I think we agree that there should be media on the end of whatever the name is.
Yeah, that.
Yeah, you put media there in the end of it, but, that was,
So just
but nobody's saying, like, what comments did you get back from everybody? Everybody's shy to bring up their comments. Evidently, nobody liked it, but nobody's saying what they didn't like.
So,
Come on, don't
I
be
didn't,
shy.
I didn't
What
get
don't
that
you like
many,
about
I
it?
didn't get that many
Sometimes it
comments
takes-
back, but
Sometimes it takes a little while for it to sit with you too, and then
Yeah.
think about it. Because quite honestly, after their first meeting, I was pretty impressed and excited. And that's why I feel a little bit bad about maybe we led them in the wrong direction. But I did think we gave them some direction at that first meeting for modifications, and then that didn't come back the second meeting. So aside from adding media to stuff, it was the same names as it was the previous time. Now, I loved Red Rock Media in theory, but Ann pointed out a great point that that's probably not an inclusive choice, but it's something along those lines. So we got progress in that sense. Like, I don't want it, I want to be very clear, I do not want it to say East Metro Media or something bland like that, or SWC Media, because that has not worked well for us. But granted, I hear your point about it being media, and I hear your point about it somehow better connecting to the community in some way, which is what Red Rock would do, but not actually using Red Rock, but something with that concept or idea.
I mentioned one time local media, but it kind of like disappeared.
Well, I think your name should signify what you do and what service you offer in some way, shape, or form.
Commissioner Thede, you had a comment?
Yeah, thanks. I would recommend a little homework before the next workshop. And, a couple things that you can do is number one, you can Google something media, right? And see what comes up. The other thing is going to GoDaddy and checking to see if the domain is available, just to kind of do a loose pre-vetting of a name. And I think everybody should kind of come up with a few ideas and send them to Bob, and such that you could share them or whatever, kind of before that workshop, so that you come to the workshop and you got to kind of we got to get an idea of maybe there's 12 different names that got a little bit of pre-vetting, right? I looked at one that I was thinking of, and somebody wanted about $5,000 for it, and then, so that kind of negated that one, but.
Well, that's cheaper than this, so if it's a good name.
But at any rate, so,
But I just want to, yes, thank you for moving us into a more productive place. I think you're right, that if we move forward with the workshop, us all doing our homework and coming up with 3 names is a great idea.
So I think, Rob, that one, obviously we'll keep the workshop, my personal opinion,
Okay.
on the agenda and everything like that, but I really think you should go back to Mango Day and negotiate that price with them, and so they understand
Okay.
where we stand on it and everything. Hugh Life, I don't know anything about Hugh Life, I don't know anything about facilitators, so I don't know if that's a reasonable cost by any means and stuff, so I don't know if it's something we can look elsewhere to find a different price or something like that, or better price, but.
And if I could comment on that, because we have used Hugh Life at the city, and their session, they do, it's called TOPS Facilitation, if you look it up. But it really does a great job of ideation, letting people come up with their ideas, put them up on a board, and then it helps to build consensus. Because right now, we've got 15 different ideas, and there's only 10 of us here. So they can go all over the place, but they really do a good job. The process or the TOPS facilitation method that they use really does help bring people together around something that you can latch onto and that you can come to some sort of agreement and consensus. So I'm really an advocate of, I think we should do that as, that workshop should be held. Whether Mango Day is there or not, I don't know, I guess their 10,000 is probably for them to attend that meeting with us. Is that part of it? It's like, okay, I guess I'm hearing, why do we extend the $10,000 to them when we're just going to do this facilitation? And then we're going to come back to them saying, here's what we think and what we like out of it, and let them kind of go from there on it. So I don't feel like we need to make a decision tonight on the Mango Day thing, because I'm in agreement that it's a big dollar figure that I'm not sure what we're getting for. But I am a strong supporter of doing the next workshop being that TOPS facilitation session.
We can definitely push back on Mango on the price. I would highly recommend that we hire a facilitator for that meeting so we can get the most out of
Agreed.
it.
Yes.
And Woodbury and some other nonprofits, I've been to a lot of these that Hugh Life has done, and they do a phenomenal job. They'll be coming with 2 facilitators because it's going to be a group of about 17 people. Our entire staff, the entire commission, and some key outside people.
Right.
So to have somebody who knows what they're doing, I think it's money well worth spent.
And I think they should be able to share with you, it's not just the 3 hours that they're there, it's the preparing for it.
all the prep work.
And then the after, the math of like, taking everything that we're just putting up there, they put it all together in a report. So I do
Correct.
think you have to recognize that it's not just 3 hours of time for them, of people, so. But they can share with you what their contract is, what their deliverables are as part of that, and I think
Well, and
they
that's
should.
what they said. They said it'd be $2,500 flat for as many meetings as it takes for them to get prepared for the facilitation.
I guess, Commissioner Blue, I guess my question is, your direction now is to go back to Mango Day, and do you want to try to keep the same timeline? Is that kind of the goal here, or what is your recommendation? I guess?
Preferably, I like to keep the same timeline.
Okay.
So, I question the additional cost. I mean, that's a lot of money, especially for simply extending a timeline where that should have probably been done in between anyways. So if they're gonna meet the deliverable, they need to meet the deliverable, right? So,
Okay.
it's like anything else, so.
Chair, I think it'll be helpful to Bob and Ann and me if I get involved, but if it's the commission's direction, I think it'll be helpful to know, is it, we stay at the exact time frame that we've talked about originally in the Mango Day contract? And is it the commission's position that Mango Day just hasn't performed adequately for the name, and we don't expect to pay any more? Or is it something different than that, where we recognize there's some other things and we're willing to pay a little bit more, but we're not gonna pay $10,000 more? I think it'd be helpful just to let the staff know where you're falling on that.
We signed a contract, so let's stick as closely to the contract
to
as
the
we can, right?
Right.
Because that's courteous, and I think it's the right thing to do for both sides, right?
I would rather flex on the timeline than the cost. So if we had to give on one and they said, okay, well, we're gonna have to extend the timeline, I think maybe that's okay, because we are having this additional naming and now they're gonna have a little rework. But I would also say, let's try to,
Stay within contract,
Yeah.
so. Did that make sense?
Okay.
You want a motion for that?
That's just direction, right?
Just
I think it's direction.
Okay.
Yep.
Do we have support for the facilitator at Hugh Life for 2,500?
Yeah, no, I'm glad somebody's.
Yeah, Rob's familiar with it, so.
yeah, knowing that you've had a positive experience and you explained more about the process and the deliverable, I think it's reasonable.
Yep.
Okay.
And what do people feel about whether or not Mango Day would be a participant in that or not? I'm sure from their perspective, they're like, well, we want to be there because we want to see what's going
They want to
on.
be there, but don't pay any extra for them to be there.
No, I mean, no, right,
So
right,
then
right.
it's up to them.
Right, because I mean, that's an inevitable, like, hey, we're going to do this thing.
Right.
I mean, that's going to be the inevitable request, right? Was, well, we need to be there.
I think it keeps them on the timeline and they don't charge us anymore. It's not hurting anyone. I mean, they're
Yeah.
experts in their field, right? So
Yeah.
I don't think it hurts anything for them to be there.
I mean, they would learn from it too, because then the more time they spend listening to all of us and kind of why we say this or that, if they're good, they'll get the feeling for what's the nature of the group and what direction should they go.
So, given what your request was, your comment for clarification, right? So let's say we engage the facilitator and we set a date and a time, okay? And Mango Day finds out. So there's gonna be a decision point, right, which is, let's say they wanna participate, but they say, we just can't do it for free. Because I mean, it'd be an additional service outside of the contract. So do we as a commission say, you tell them it's either show up for free or don't go, or do we as a commission give direction? No, I saw the face. Do
Do
we
we
give,
comment, but I just
do we
go
give
ahead.
direction to you that, okay, we're not gonna make it a zero sum. If they want to come, give us a reasonable cost for you to attend that meeting and to, that's not $10,000. So do we as a commission want to give direction to staff that says, if you're put in that position where, they're saying, we want to be there, but there's going to be some cost, but it's not going to be 10,000. Do we want to give direction to them to say,
If they want to be there, they can be
show up.
there, and if not, then, okay.
well, are we going to tie their
we'll-
hands and tell them that
Our-
we're not going to pay another penny for them? Or are we going to give staff direction that says, you can negotiate some fee?
Well, I think we heard already that we don't favor paying them any more money.
Okay, well,
So,
let's
and
be
we're
clear.
maintaining the
And I
contract.
think the 10,000 isn't for that meeting. It's
No.
for the extension
No,
of
and
the
that's
timeline. So,
the meeting is like, they never charged us for coming to our executive committees. They never charged us for any of that. That was all part of that contract. So my view is that this is part of that same contract.
Okay, no, okay.
So it would be no different than them coming to the executive committee. And they didn't bring that up. They only were bringing up extra money when we extended the timeline.
Okay.
Can I just say that the handout that was provided for you at the table does have an additional cost breakdown on it. It is, page 4. And it does talk about how many additional hours it'll take for copywriting consultant, project management, project lead, design lead. So they are breaking down the amount of hours that they feel like they'll have to additionally provide to extend this timeline.
Assuming we,
So what have they done so far then? I mean, they came up with those names, they came up with some color schemes, some ideological, stuff and so forth. So, I mean, there's some of that, they should have already had some prep, no matter what name we give them.
I think there's a lot of validity in saying that we feel like this should have been done already in your process.
Right.
That we've paid you to do this portion. And that hasn't been done, we're unsatisfied with that, so we want to talk to you about that. I just wanted to point out that they did break down their cost. So it's not just to wait longer for them to do the next step.
I do
you know.
appreciate that a lot, because I like the transparency, and not every place will give you that, so that is great. And I would say, the direction we gave was to stick as close to the contract as possible, but this is a relationship, and we don't want to create a situation where they're not giving their best work, because we've created some kind of poor dynamic. So I feel like we should negotiate in good faith for something that feels more fair. So, to provide that feedback and say, this feels like a lot, could you take another look at these numbers, consider this feedback, and let us know what you think, if you think that you can make some adjustments here, and see what they come back with.
Okay?
Right, that's different than what everyone else said, so that's.
No, you're exploring options.
Yeah.
But again, like I said, the devil's advocate position is, well, we have a contract, we have timelines. And here's the thing, we're all commissioners, we're all adults. Maybe we gotta work a little extra, work a little more, and figure out that name, get it to them on time, and let them just kind of keep this thing chugging. I mean, maybe some of the burden falls on us.
Yeah, I would say after our workshop on the 22nd, let's all try to double down and let's try to get out of that meeting with a firm set of 3 names. I mean, it's going to be hard, but let's just do it and come up with something. And I don't think everyone's going to get their first pick, but, that's the way it is.
does Hugh Life send out anything prior to the meeting for facilitation?
I would assume they do. I have not done this before.
Oh, that's where I'm thinking that, if we do a little homework before that meeting, then the meeting could be more successful.
Can I say that we selected the 22nd, thinking that meeting would have nothing in it? And realizing now that has some more attention you need to give? Does that date still work for this workshop?
I think so. I don't think that we're going to have I think 30 minutes for that other portion of the discussion is enough time.
I think it'll be quick.
So you want 5 to 5:30 to be that closed, and
Yes.
then 5:30 to
Yes.
8:30 to
It will
be?
force us to be super productive.
Yes.
Okay. We are looking at changing the location, because obviously we'll have more people, so we'll let you
Where
know.
are we gonna be?
Every place I call, they say they're booked, so I'm still working on it.
Okay.
Yeah. well,
Ojibwe?
I have an email in for that. Yep, I'm at Ojibwe now, so.
So does Ojibwe cost something, or is that free?
It will be free. I tried Glacial, because I thought that'd be great, but it is booked.
It was booked?
Yeah,
I mean, there's always. Ojibwe's much better.
that's booked as well.
Close to you.
The training room is booked as well.
Oh, really?
Yeah. We're working on it. We'll find a space.
Any further discussion? Do you know your direction, Ann, Bob?
Yes,
Okay,
yes, we're gonna go
great.
talk to Mango Day.
Thanks, Bob. Moving on, new business? None. Commission comments and requests?
Oh, he never did answer. I want to know what comments he got back from all of us.
I can share them with you after the meeting. I have them right here, but I can share you after.
Well, the reason I ask is if we're gonna each kind of come up with our own and look at them, maybe we understand what some of the others liked or didn't like. Might save us a little time on the 3-hour thing.
Like I said, I only got like 5 comments, so.
Oh, well,
Well, okay.
good for us, huh? We're really working at this.
It's a big rough bit of they like the greens and blues, pretty much greens and blues were the colors everybody chose. Somebody hated the orange and whites. Somebody wondered what the flower represented on the Common Ground Media logo, which was just an example. Yeah, they didn't like the red mixed with green, so a lot of the comments were about the colors. Somebody said perhaps Mango Day could do a bit more research in areas to consider what does connect with us and determine what fewer names with a regional twist. And then somebody said, I really wish it would be more regional. So that's basically what the comments were.
So none of them really got us to a name, did they?
So,
And that's kind of what he said.
Yeah.
yeah. So like I said, when I ranked them all and based on a point system, they were pretty much a virtual tie. There was like 2 points separating each one. So obviously, there was no
Okay.
consensus. So
right.
the only consensus was the green and the blue. That was probably the only consensus.
Woo-hoo,
So-
maybe we made a decision.
Oh, we have colors.
Yep.
Yeah, kind of hard to come up with a color till you got a name. I mean, it's,
Thanks, Bob. Any other comments? Anything? We're gonna move, first we'll adjourn this meeting, and then we're gonna open the next closed session meeting in the St. Croix room after this. I think that's the correct way of doing that. So, should have probably done it at the beginning of the agenda. So looking for a motion to adjourn this meeting.
Move to adjourn.
Second.
Those in favor? Aye. See you in the St. Croix room.
Chair. Close meeting.
We'll be going into a closed session in St. Croix room for a consultation with counsel on an active threatened and pending litigation per Minnesota statute section 13D.05 subsection 3B.
Thank you.
Did that without my glasses on too. So.